planners. Now, Destiny, ooh, it has the gaming audience pulled in two different directions. Some people love it, some people hate it. But I think Destiny is a fickle mistress who will take you to the exquisite heights in the very beginning and then drip feed you like a little addictive morsels to keep you coming back for more. I love it, but I hate it, but I love it, but I hate it. Right, this review has got my thoughts and opinions on playing the game from level 1 all the way to level 20. This sort of 10 to 12 hour section of the game has a dedicated story and introduces the player to the planets, the different alien races, and the different mission types that you can do. When you hit level 20, then the game actually changes and it becomes more of an MMO, a bit more of a grind, and you have to do things called strikes, raids, and special missions. Now, Destiny is particularly difficult to review because it feels like it's the beginning of something. It feels unfinished, and there's lots more content being withheld, and it's going to come out over the next few months, years, to give the game longevity. Many players have chosen to sort of leave the game at level 20 once they've completed the story and they've got all of their shooting fun out of it, whereas many others have actually gone on to grind as far as level 30, which is the furthest I've seen. Now, I expect that there's going to be so much DLC coming out for this. There'll be free updates, there'll be paid updates, and a lot of this is probably going to be geared towards the higher level players.
I don't need to tell you that it cost $500 million to make, or that Bungie, the creators of Halo, are behind it, as Destiny is quite simply a phenomenon. Or at least it has all the hallmarks of being a phenomenon. Destiny feels different to any other console release to date, which is partly due to the hype, but also due to the sheer scale of it. And I don't mean by the size of the levels or even the amount of planets, but the vast amount of information that both surrounds the game and is also absent from it. On the surface, the story is simple. An alien ball, known as the Traveller, comes to Earth, shares its technology, and humans expand into the solar system. Then another force, known as the Darkness, comes and kills us, and then drives us back to one city on Earth that is protected by the dying Traveller's shields. The Traveller's robot minions, known as Ghosts, voiced by Peter Dinklage, revive you from death, along with an army of other players, to fight back and regain vital footholds in the solar system. After which, you just do what your Dinklebot tells you to do. This mainly involves going from place to place, releasing your Dinklebot, and then killing hordes of aliens from 4 distinct races. From one perspective, the story is actually the weakest element of the game. There's very few cutscenes, and most of the story is told through exposition during the loading screens, and offline by the Grimoire cards accessible at bungie.net. The few cutscenes there are in the game are unskippable, and each exposition prompts more questions than it actually answers.
We haven't got much time.
Who are you?
Why have you been watching us?
I don't even have time to explain why I don't have time to explain.
The first hour of the game is truly amazing and promises so much. You wake up dead with so many questions, none of which are ever answered, and a mix of cutscenes introduce you to some impressive looking aliens, and in-game animations show you how they can use the Dinklebot to light dark areas. And then the first newly lit area has aliens crawling all over pipes and stuff and then leaping down into the gangways in front of you. This culmination of these is a scene that is truly awesome. Sadly, all this treatment soon ends and enemies just run out of caves or spawn in front of you or just linger in set areas. Despite phenomenal gunplay, the story and its delivery truly is terrible. Now, I don't want to dismiss the story too soon, however, as it's early days, and I suspect that additional story content will be added to flesh out this stark narrative, as both free DLC and paid DLC. One theory that is currently doing the rounds on the internet is the fact that the Traveller is the Darkness, and that we are its army of undead soldiers, which would actually help to explain why everybody in the universe seems to want us dead. This would add a nice twist on a somewhat lackluster story. Bungie has really disappointed me in the storytelling department, as Knights of the Old Republic really shone out in this respect, so I know that they can deliver an online multiplayer narrative-led game. The wealth of information outside of the game supports the idea of Destiny being a phenomenon. On the Bungie.net website, players can see their characters' gear, their collectibles, progressions, and stats on pretty much everything. Other websites offer colour shaders for you to recolour your character like a Barbie doll. There's even a Google Maps powered tour of the solar system with audio clips and videos as you wander around the ruined cities of the former colonies. The companion app offers players all of this information and allows the player to equip different gear ready for the next time you play the game. Other third-party apps such as Phase have also appeared to help some of the matchmaking issues people have encountered. Bungie has said repeatedly that this is not an MMO game, but a shared world shooter. The game has unquestionably phenomenal gunplay borrowed directly from Halo and feels polished and immensely fun. The gun types feel different enough, and you can feel the difference between a shotgun and a sniper rifle. Sadly, the amount of gun models is limited, but this is hidden well. The legendary and exotic weapons look exactly the same as the lower level weapons, despite taking hours of grinding to earn. Shooting enemies have a Borderlands inspired hit point fountain, giving you a clear indication when enemies will die. Whilst it is good to see, it can be a little bit distracting, and you'll find yourself focusing too much on the numbers and the health bars, which ultimately pull you out of the game's ambience. And what ambience it is, the graphics are visually stunning, and the various worlds are beautifully crafted with an array of open areas, densely packed urban areas, claustrophobic cave systems, and large trenches that are just great to race around on your speeder bike inspired Sparrow. The accompanying music is breathtaking, from the epic scene-setting music that oozes grandeur to the ethereal tinkle of the space. The myriad of sound effects are astounding, with an array of alien shrieks and screams, as well as weapon sounds that are both meaty and satisfying. The action spans across various planets in our solar system that include Venus, Mars, Mercury, Earth, and the Moon. Whilst this is enough to finish the story, it does leave unanswered questions about the other planets. Planets are navigated around using a ship that can be altered, however the spaceship sections only act as loading screens and exposition dumps, which feels really lazy considering the budget. It is, however, a nice touch, and when doing a strike, a raid, or a multiplayer match, it's really nice to see the various players' ships all converge on this chosen planet altogether. As beautiful as these loading screens are, there is a lot of them, and they can take a while. Similarly, when roaming around in an empty world playing solo, there's no pause or save function, so if you get disturbed during a boss battle, you have to leave orbit and then start the mission again afresh. Rubbish. The boss battles in Destiny are generally okay, but they're mostly larger versions of the aliens that we've already seen. Their ridiculously high hit count means that they are simply bullet sponges that require the same tactics from one boss to the next. Sadly, after an uninspiring lead up to the final bosses, they turn out to be very disappointing, and all the same questions remain unanswered. The multiplayer is fantastic, and players can still earn XP and gear for participating in the Crucible. As the loot drop system is totally random and massively frustrating, it is much more fun to duke it out in the Crucible than to grind for 6 hours, killing the same enemies over and over again with a random chance of getting something good. There are about 10 maps that vary from close combat encounters to open battlefields with a handful of different game types. New game modes have appeared, as well as special events, and even more maps and more game modes are surely going to be rolled out over the game's lifespan. Unfortunately, weapon attachments and abilities do stay active, and some exotic weapons can still do one-shot kills. Despite Bungie's best efforts at removing weapon advantage, it's still slightly unbalanced. Overall, I am addicted to this game. I have thoroughly enjoyed playing Destiny so far, and I will continue to play it as more content is released. The game looks and sounds amazing, and the gunplay is beautifully crafted. This game has created a new genre that I can only describe as a protracted shooter. It is a long-term action game with RPG elements aimed for short bursts of entertainment that will grow over time and slowly reward its user base. This stepping stone between arcade first-person shooter and fully realised MMORPG is a reflection of the next generation of gaming. It's mixing an always-on online gaming community with a steady stream of digital content. I can't ignore the fact that there is no story beyond the initial opening sequence, and that the lack of cutscenes just seems lazy. I mean, sadly, the loot drops are a bit too random, and coupled with being consistently kicked off the server, there are many aspects of this game which will infuriate you. However, I feel that too much has been held back in this initial release, and I hope that more free content will be released soon to plug these gaping holes. The Sword of Crochet mission is a break from all the shooting and indicates what could have been done but hasn't been realised at present. However, the game is still epic, and the core gunplay mechanic is fantastic and will have you hooked on both the story mode and the multiplayer for months, if not years to come.
I wish you'd check with me before making insane promises.
Finish him!
Take down a gate lord, we've got to find out how these machines operate.
If you want more, don't forget to like, comment or subscribe, or click the link for even more reviews.